Hey, what's going on everybody, and a warm welcome back to the Whiskey Cove. And on today's episode, we take a look at 10 whiskies and ask the question, are these whiskies really worth the hunt, and are they worth your money? Let's find out. Run that video. Alright then folks, before we get into today's video, hopefully everybody out there has had a fantastic New Year's and Christmas, and I started the new year in proper fashion, maybe set some goals or just some objectives to do out the year, and I hope that everything that you set for yourself, you're able to achieve this year. I have some objectives myself, and that includes everybody out there thinking about subscribing to the channel, so please consider doing that if you like the content. And if you like today's video, don't forget to hit that like button as well. So I have 10 whiskies to go through here. We have some rye, we have some Tennessee whiskey, we have some Kentucky bourbon, we have a couple of different things here. So let's just jump straight into it, and we're asking the question, are these whiskies worth time and money? Let's find out. So the first bottle on this list is going to be Wagon, uncut, unfiltered, the younger. So we did a review on the channel on this whiskey, and basically I was a little bit disappointed with this. I think I paid a little bit over MSRP in the $70 region there, and I just felt it was a very youthful bottle of whiskey. I got a lot of kind of like one-dimensional notes, some grain notes there as well. There's a couple of nice candy notes in there, but for me, if you're out there hunting this bottle, you're probably best trying to find something else. However, like the Wagon uncut and unfiltered, the regular one, phenomenal, fantastic whiskey. However, for this bottle, I think that this just kind of missed the mark, just that little bit there. So I believe this whiskey is not worth the time or the money. So that was Wagon uncut, the younger. Next one is going to be probably a controversial one, and that is going to be a Midwinter Night's Dram. And when I say a Midwinter Night's Dram, I mean specifically this year's edition. So this is Act 10, Scene 6. So I think this year's edition isn't great. It doesn't stack up anywhere near close from the Act 9 from last year. Not only is it not worth your time by trying to find it because it's just not as good as last year's, it's definitely not worth your money. I've seen these going up to like $180 in and around Colorado. They were like at $89.99 last year, so they've gone up by like $90. I know they went up at the distillery, but it looks like they're just going up across the board as well. So this is definitely not worth your time and your money. Maybe look into the double rye High West picks. I think you can find a better value for money there. So not off to a good start. Another bottle that's not worth your time and money. A High West, a Midwinter Night's Dram, this year's edition, the Act 10 edition. So staying with High West, and we're gonna go to High West High Country. So if you've watched the whiskeys, or the worst whiskeys of the year, this could definitely have been on that list. And the only reason it wasn't is because I completely forgot about it, but it definitely would have been on there. So this is their first expression with just all their mash bill and grain. This is the first time they've been able to put out a bottle of whiskey that's been completely distilled by them. However, I just get like really funky, like corny grain notes on this, and it just overtakes this whole whiskey. There's not much sweetness there as well. This is an American single malt, and I generally get like really high corn grain notes from American single malt. Yeah, it's definitely still there, and it just consumes the whole whiskey, and it puts up a really off-putting experience for me. Again, you're looking close to like $100 for this bottle of whiskey, and again, it just completely missed the mark. So if you're someone that's trying to find one of these, I would just leave it where it is. That was High West High Country. So let's see if we can get back to whiskeys that are worth the time and the money. And next up, we're gonna look into Jack Daniel's, and we're gonna go look at the single barrel proof. So the great thing about these whiskeys are you shouldn't spend too much time actually looking for them because they are quite readily available across the nation. Not only that, they come in around about $60 to $70 at MSRP. No one should be marking these up because, you know, they're a fairly easy bottle to find out there. Not only that, this is some of the best barrel proof juice out there, and it's not even allocated. I know Jack Daniel's came up with a lot of like the renditions of this, like the Coy Hill stuff out there, which people are raving about a lot. But this is just I wouldn't say it gets overlooked anymore because people are aware about this bottle, but if you're looking for a fantastic barrel-proof product that has sweet banana bread, kind of cake notes, syrupy, marshmallowy, this is going to be right up your street. Affordable, easy to find, and delicious. So do not skip out on this one. So this is one bottle definitely worth your time and definitely worth your money. That was Jack Daniel's single barrel, barrel proof. Next up on this list, we're gonna go to Barton, and we're going to 1792, and we're gonna go full proof. What I will say is a bit of a disclaimer here is, I love 1792. I really do like their juice. I think they put out some great products. However, the full proof is definitely not one of those. So coming in at 62.5% alcohol, this kind of just blows your palate apart. And there's just not much complexity with the flavor. It's just kind of like all heat, not much spice, but just like a lot of ethanol notes there as well. It could possibly open up a little bit by adding some water or some ice. I think this might just be like a really good cocktail mixer if you're looking for a high barrel proof whiskey that doesn't have too much flavor. This could be it, but drinking it neat, it just doesn't do great. We did a blind for all the 1792s, and this guy finished dead last for that reason. It's just not a great whiskey. It can be quite hard to find in some states. This was a store pick, but you don't see many store picks around. It can kind of be a little bit different from whiskey to whiskey with the store picks and the single barrels involved. But just through my experiences with having a couple of these and trying a different couple of these full proofs, none of them have been hitters. None of them have been anywhere near good. Is it worth your time? Absolutely not. Going for one of these bottles. Is it worth your money? Yeah, I would just pass out on this one. So that was 1792 full proof. Next up, we're gonna go to Tennessee, and we're gonna go to George Dickel, and this is gonna be George Dickel Tennessee single barrel whiskey, aged 15 years. George Dickel, a very controversial whiskey in terms of, it's kind of like, people kind of like it or they don't. With me, I think this bottle is worth looking for. I do think it's worth your money. I'll tell you why. It's at least a 15-year product. So it says it aged at least 15 years. This one is coming in at 52.3% alcohol. So they also do these in a variety of different alcohol percentages. I've had the ability to try the 80 proof or the 40% ABV. That was not good. If you're gonna hunt for one of these, hunt for one of the ones which are as close to 50% alcohol or above as best as you can. This is a single barrel product, so it might be different to the one you pick up, but I just think this has some really nice oak and cherry notes, and I think that has like a really nice spicy and complex backbone. And you do obviously, people talk a little bit about kind of like Dickel Funk or like the Flintstone vitamin note. I didn't grow up with that flavor profile. I didn't grow up tasting those, so that doesn't really put me off. I tasted like a little bit like a medicinal cherry, but I think it makes for a really good whiskey, personally. And like, I think this cost me about $60. So $60 for an aged at least 15-year whiskey, single barrel whiskey, coming in at 52.3% alcohol by volume. I think that's really good value for money. Worth your time, yes. Worth your money, definitely. That was Dickel, single barrel, 15 years. Next up, we're gonna look at Old Forester, barrel strength, single barrel. So another single barrel. They only do the barrel strengths in the single barrel ranges. I've never seen them outside of that. I have a couple of different picks over here, and I've had some and I've drunk some throughout my whiskey journey here, and I can say the barrel strength Old Foresters are worth every dime of your money. It can be a little bit difficult to find. So then on that part, is it worth your time? Definitely is worth your time. This cost me around $80. The proof for ABV on this is 64.3% alcohol or 128.6 proof. It just drinks like dessert whiskey. It doesn't drink anywhere near that proof. It just tastes like you're sipping on this like sweet 50% alcohol whiskey. You have this like burnt marshmallow, kind of a lot of barrel char notes there as well. Really great in a cocktail, really great with some ice outside on the summer. Is it worth your money? Is it worth your time? 100%. If there's a bottle on this list, I couldn't agree more with that. That would be this and a Jack Daniel's. And yeah, I would say they're probably the two most, maybe one of the ones left to come. So that was Old Forester barrel strength, single barrel. Next up on this list, and we're gonna finish off, the last three are all gonna be Buffalo Trace products, or Buffalo Trace / Sazerac products. So one whiskey. Next up is going to be the Caribou Crossing single barrel. This cost me around $65. This comes in 40% alcohol by volume, 80 proof. They only make them around that. They only make them at that strength. So obviously it's a very pretty bottle. You can get the ones with the Caribou on the top, or I think you can get like the Canadian maple leaf. Definitely not worth hunting for at all. I get it, guys and girls, I get it. It looks beautiful. This is a really heavy stopper as well. So, you know, if you're paying $65 and you're spending your time to try and get a beautiful infinity bottle, this might be for you. But just like the flavor profile and the nosing notes. And I don't like dunking on whiskey, but it kind of just tastes like paint stripper. It really is one of the most disappointing whiskeys I have ever gotten. It just falls completely flat. When you taste it, there's a tiny little bit of alcohol burn, but after that, the whole whiskey just nosedives off a cliff, and there's just nothing there. It's, like I said, very disappointing whiskey. Is it worth your time? Definitely not. Is it worth your $65? Definitely not. This is like comparable to a budget bourbon. When I say budget, I mean like $10 to $20. However, it's a Sazerac Buffalo Trace / product, and people kind of go wild for that, with, you know, because they make some excellent whiskey. Sadly, this is not one of them. Hard pass on the Caribou Crossing. Next up, we have possibly another controversial one. That is going to be El Matili single barrel. This is coming in at 45% alcohol or 90 proof. This could quite possibly be the most difficult bottle of whiskey to find on this list. MSRP is actually around about $40 to $60. If you can find this for MSRP, you're actually not going to be paying too much. The problem is you're probably not going to be able to find it at MSRP. And I know that I have an understanding that these go for like $200-300 on secondary market, and I can tell you straight off the bat that it's definitely not worth the value for this bottle of whiskey. It's got like this plastic, cheap-ass plastic cap. It's got a pretty standard bottle. Obviously, there's a lot of history behind El Matili, and there's a lot of fanfare, and people like to chase this bottle. But I can tell you now, I like the Caribou Crossing, I was really disappointed about El Matili. A lot of people had told me that it wasn't worth the chase and it wasn't great whiskey, and it's just not. It's just a little bit flat. It has a little bit of body to it, but again, there's no finish on it, there's no real complexity, and it just completely falls flat. Is it worth your money at MSRP? Just because the story and kind of like the fanfare on the bottle, if you can find it at MSRP, it is worth your money, but it is not worth your time to go out and look for it for MSRP. So if it falls in your lap at MSRP, get it. Don't go looking for it though. That was El Matili. Next up, and the last bottle on this list, staying of course with Buffalo Trace, is going to be Blanton's. So there is not a more dividing bottle of whiskey on the whiskey market right now. This is a single barrel product, so of course there's going to be a lot of variety between them, but just thinking about Blanton's as a whole, so I think you can get some really great single barrel bottles of Blanton's, and I think for the most part, most of the single barrels that I've ever gotten have all been really great whiskeys. I think they have a lot of that Buffalo Trace cherry, caramel, vanilla, like bright red apple profile, and I think that they are actually really great value for money. If you're thinking about 50, well maybe not 50 anymore, but $55 to $65 at MSRP. Okay, this is a bit of a tater bottle, what people like to say, but it does look, it's a beautiful looking bottle. You do get the stopper, much like the Caribou Crossing stopper, but the whiskey inside is just so much better. And like I said, of course they're single barrels, but just in general, just these single barrel products are actually very solid. And I think that people just mark them up all the time in shops, so then that's why they build a lot of bad rep. However, if you can find them at MSRP, definitely worth your time and money to go out and look for them at MSRP. Hopefully you will be able to find them depending on where you live and kind of what the allocation is like. So that was Blanton's, and that was 10 bottles of whiskeys that I feel some are worth your time and money and some aren't, but this is all part of trying and tasting whiskeys. You're gonna find some that you really like and then some that you don't like, and then they kind of sit on your shelf and kind of die a slow death until you get like an uncle that comes over and then you can palm that off on them. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you enjoy what we do on this channel generally. And if you do, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and as we drink through the world's whiskeys, one glass at a time, cheers.